Good day traders, welcome to the RMD Trader Weekly Market Fix. My name is John Jacobs, here to present you with a technical overview of the most popular instruments of interest for the week ahead. Before we start, I just want to apologize for the poor sound quality of last week's video. We unfortunately experienced some technical issues with our microphone. Great, so let's get started by having a look at some of the trade setups that we had going last week. So the first one is the short setup we had going on the GBPUSD. Then we had USDJPY long setup. We also mentioned inverted head and shoulder setup on silver, and then we had that long setup on gold, which worked out perfectly and hit the full target. And also for those of you who follow our Twitter account, you'll see that the short setup that we had running on the AUDUSD has also reached the full target for the trade. So having a look firstly at the GBPUSD trade, we can see that unfortunately we didn't really get the perfect entry that we hoped we would have had. So we actually were hoping for a bit of a higher pullback into this area highlighted in this red circle, although we actually rather got immediate rejection with prices briefly touching that entry zone level, as you can see from the top of that shadow, and from there we proceeded down, reaching that area we put out as our first target, and then continuing lower currently, maybe for the week to come, reaching the full target at 1.3268. Although just looking at the chart, we can see that we have that 21 daily EMA currently acting as very strong resistance. So looking at our new weekly R1 pivot, we can see that will likely align with the 21 daily EMA, setting our possible pullback scenario for this week probably closer to about 1.356. So if price were to get into that area, from there we can then probably expect a new move lower. Having a look at that USDJPY long trade that we had set up, so we had price dipping into that entry zone, and from there we had some bullish price action. We have not yet seen price breaking out above that upper diagonal resistance, so only once that happen, I expect price to start hitting one of our two targets, one or both. So we have our first target at the previous high at 114.6, and then we had have the second target about 117.06. So best to see what will happen this week and whether we will still see another dip lower into this area in blue, which is our entry zone. So that would actually afford some of the traders another opportunity to get into this trade. Quickly looking at the EURUSD. So the EURUSD also currently looking for that new low, structure low that we were expecting. So we can see we have this diagonal trend support line, and we have that coinciding with the monthly S2 from last week. And I'm just going to disable the pivots from last week, because otherwise there's just too many lines on the chart. So for this week we are probably expecting a little bit of a lower low still, perhaps testing that level of support. From there probably pulling back, also similar to what we saw on the GBPUSD, towards that 21 daily EMA, and that would be anywhere between our weekly pivot coinciding with the monthly S1 pivot at 1.149 and the weekly R1 pivot at about 1.55. So if price were to move back into this area, and let's just copy that circle so you guys can get a better idea of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to put that over there. So if we do see price moving into that area and getting rejected, we are expecting more lows. Perhaps also, just to make everything easier to see, let's just make this full screen, and then we can move on to the EURGBP. EURGBP currently still trading in our entry zone area. We are expecting a long move. As we previously mentioned, we have our trend evaluation method currently in stage 5, which means it's trend exhaustion, and we had this bottom forming and a very strong bullish breakout. So at this stage we are looking for a new stage 1 to form, and that will be initiated once we have that break above the daily 200 SMA, which coincides with the monthly R1. So if we see that, there's a very good chance we will start seeing higher targets, with the first target at 0.862 and a full target at 0.87, and from there it's likely that we'll see a pullback and then again a new break of structure high. Briefly looking at let's have a look at that AUDUSD trade that actually worked out last week. So as I've mentioned, we had a short setup on the AUDUSD. We reached our full target, and now we can see price forming that reversal, which on higher time frame would actually be a pin bar reversal. But at this stage, you can see we have a bullish candle followed by a very strong, a bearish candle followed by a very strong bullish candle, and this could signal the reversal similar to what we saw in the end of September, and that means we can expect price then to start heading higher and looking for some resistance. Resistance likely will be found in the area of the monthly pivot at 0.742, and if it does head higher from there, likely it will find some strong resistance from our daily 200 SMA, which it could probably meet up in the area of about 0.750. Moving on to the NZDUSD trade. Last week we mentioned that we had a short scenario set up, although it did appear that it could be possible that we would instead rather see this as a retest of this bigger breakout of price heading higher. But as things are turning out, it did seem that our initial scenario is rather playing out. As you can see, we are finding some support now from that daily 100 SMA. This is the blue dotted line on the screen. So it remains to be seen whether we will reach that full target at 0.695 or whether we will retrace back into that blue zone where we have resistance from the daily 200 SMA. Moving on to the USDCHF, we still have an ongoing long setup on this trade for quite some time now. We are still in the profit area. We are expecting moves higher towards resistance at 0.926, and from there, if we can reach that area, then we can move stops to break even and look out for a move towards the second target, which will coincide with previous highs at 0.936, and the stop will remain at level set at 0.908. And let's conclude by looking at the USDJPY briefly. As I've mentioned, I'm still bullish and I'm still expecting a breakout higher for this Forex pair. In order for that to happen, of course, we need to break that upper diagonal resistance. We have a first target at that previous high and a full target at that 117, as I've mentioned previously. So let's continue on to our indices and have a look at the NASDAQ. So for the NASDAQ, we have seen price reacting very strongly at this convergence levels of different resistance levels. We have our monthly R1 and that diagonal level of resistance, both coming together on that level, and we can see price reacting on that, pulling back not too much. And if we do look at last week's pivot levels, we can see that was a pullback towards the weekly S1 pivot. Currently we are right back on the weekly pivot from last week, which is also the pivot for this week. So if price can remain at this level and trade above this level, and especially if it can take out last week's highs, then I expect we can likely see that last final push towards this very let's just say area of caution that I've highlighted previously also, which I do suspect would be ultimate resistance for this index. So if price were to hit between 16,670 to 16,890, that would be an area of caution. I probably expect a very strong correction from this area towards these areas of either about 15,680 or where we have our daily 50 and daily 100 SMAs converging at about 15,400. Brief look now at oil, Brent crude oil. You can see Brent crude oil is also appearing to be running out of some momentum, with some bearish engulfing candles last week, indicating that there is definitely some bearish price action going on. We have some support from the weekly S1 and the daily 50 SMA at about, the round level of 80 or 80 to about 80.40. If that level fails, we have some more support at 76.80 and 73.50. So it remains to be seen how that will play out, and we will see that deeper correction. What we can do is we can quickly pull up a Fibonacci level to see what our pullback levels are. So we can see that 38.2 level coincides with our monthly S1 pivot, at 78.60, and then we have our 50 level very closely converging with our daily 100 SMA at that 75.50 level, and our 61.8 level likely looking to meet up with that daily 200 SMA at 73.50. So I think those would definitely be the areas to have a look, or rather to set some alerts as price moves into these levels. We can expect some price action in the opposite direction. Gold has met and exceeded our bullish target from that inverted head and shoulders. Currently we are approaching levels of resistance, and we have some more resistance right above us for the week at about 1,875. So from here I suspect any correction, be that towards maybe 1,850, could start presenting a new long opportunity, but I will keep you guys updated as the week progresses. Looking at our cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin still struggling to move higher and make new highs. We are still trending up, with the price remaining above the daily 21 EMA and also above that very important yearly R3 pivot at 63,200. So as long as price do remain above these levels, it is bullish, and there's always a chance then that we will see that retest of well, not a retest rather, but a test of new highs, and using a diagonal level projected, we can see we could have a target somewhere between 68,500 and about 71,300. So somewhere in there we could have a target for a long move, and from there then we could expect perhaps again a test of that 21 daily EMA. Level of support 75,100, that's the monthly pivot, and then we have our yearly R2 still at that 46,000 level. Concluding by having a very brief look at XRP, that is Ripple. So Ripple has broken out of that larger symmetrical triangle. It is trading above the daily 21 EMA, meaning there is still a bullish trend ongoing, and as long as we do remain above it, there's still a chance for the test of the yearly R3 with a break above it, seeing price probably testing those highs at 1.389, and just in terms of support, we have some support at 1.086. That is where we have our daily 100 as well as the daily 50 SMAs converging with the weekly S1, and if that also fails, there is some support from the monthly S1 at 0.96. That concludes our market fix for the week. Please remember to subscribe, and if you have any feedback or questions, please do let us know. For this week's pro trading tip, I want to remind all our traders to always remain patient and stick to your trading plan. This is especially important when there is economic news coming out, which tend to bring volatility and uncertainty that could throw many traders off. Until next time, we wish you all the best with your trading. Remember, trade smart and trade successful.